Hey, Baba. So hello to our little group, and we're going to start something new this week. We spent the last month working on seeking love outside of ourselves, and now we're actually going to do the work on the body. And there's some things I would like to say about it, and quotes from Baba and Byron Katie. But I'm going to read to you from Discourses, pages 392 through 395, excerpts from those pages. So this is Baba. Humanity is subject to much suffering, physical and mental. Of these two, mental suffering is the more acute. Physical suffering sometimes comes as a blessing because it serves the purpose of easing mental suffering by weaning away one's attention from mental suffering. The true suffering that counts is mental, which is rooted in the frustration of desires. If man becomes desireless and contented, he will be free from his self-inflicted suffering. When an individual is thus contented, he does not require any solutions to problems because the problems that confront worldly persons have disappeared. The suffering that comes from purging the mind of its many desires exists even when the soul may be ready to renounce them, because this decision of the soul goes counter to the inclination of the ego mind to persist through its habitual desires. Renunciation of desires curtails the very life of the ego mind. Therefore, it is a process invariably accompanied by acute suffering. But such suffering is wholesome for the soul because it liberates the soul from bondage. Not all suffering is bad. When suffering leads to the eternal happiness of desirelessness, it should be regarded as a blessing in disguise. So today we're going to shift our focus to working on the body, which Baba says is a shadow. So the body is like a shadow. And I'm going to read this excerpt from The Wayfarers by William Donkin. It's regarding the Muss, who I am completely fascinated with. And this is from pages 33 and 34 of The Wayfarers. And its heading is Know All the Universe to be Zero. So, from general standards of society, religion, health, morality, and so forth, cleanliness of body and mind are indispensable. It is, however, very easy to keep the body clean, but cleanliness of mind is very difficult indeed. The more one gets attached to body cleanliness for merely selfish reasons, the less are the chances of having a clean mind. If, however, one is given up wholly to mental cleanliness, which means becoming free from low, selfish, impure desires and thoughts of lust, greed, anger, backbiting, etc., the less is one's mind attached to bodily needs and bodily cleanliness. All this applies to ordinary persons. Now, of the 5 types, God merged, God intoxicated, God absorbed, God communed, and God mad, the God absorbed and God communed can more or less keep their bodies clean. Their minds are almost automatically clean due to their being absorbed in God or in communion with God. But the God mad, the God intoxicated, and the God merged all invariably have dirty bodies, live in dirty surroundings, and may have dirty physical habits. A God mad has a clean, pure mind. A God intoxicated has a mind, but no thoughts, for his mind is simply enjoying the intoxicated state. A God merged has no mind. He is fully merged in God. So in these 3 cases, their mental cleanliness and purity cannot be questioned. Now, why should their bodies and environments be dirty? You will find that the majority of ordinary mad people have very little consciousness of their bodies. So if an ordinary mind, when mad, does not pay attention to bodily cleanliness, then the 3 types of God men who unconsciously or consciously know all the universe to be zero, body to be a shadow, and whose minds are absolutely unattached to the body, cannot be expected to keep their surroundings clean. So we're just getting some information here before we start exploring this dang body that, you know, we all have, and you know, that causes a lot of us trouble. So I've really been enjoying it just came to me to do the work on the body next. And so I've really been enjoying doing some of the research and finding these quotes, because I definitely suffer bodily pains, and it just helps me be more detached from it. So this is another short quote from Baba, from Lord Maher, page 3771. So this is from 1955. He says, "We have bodies and they are subject to all sorts of ailments. Those who have realized the self and do not come down to normal consciousness are immune from such bodily disturbances. Baba is suffering from a cold. Because I have come down to gross consciousness, I am subject to bodily suffering." So now we have some nice perspective on this condition, this human condition that we're in. And here's one more from Lord Maher. This is from 1926, page 712 of Lord Maher. And Baba is saying, he's explaining to the Mandali about the state after death. And he says, "A person dies when his sanskaras are exhausted, spent in full. After a person dies, his sanskaras snap the mind's connection with the gross body. At that time, he receives such a shock that he forgets every incident of his past life. But even though the gross body drops, the mind and the subtle body remain full of sanskaras." So, does anybody have anything they'd like to say before I'm going to read a few Byron Katie quotes to give us another reflection of a healthy way to be with our bodies. But if anybody has something they'd like to say at this point, please feel free to share.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, what my sanskaras are that I have to live through this pandemic. And sometimes I think, like, how lucky dead people are. I had a friend who died in December, and she was quite young. And sometimes I envy her because she doesn't have to go through this. And
but we know what Baba says. He says we carry the mental body over to our new body. So when she gets her new body, she'll just pick up where she left off. So I hear you, and I have a lot of empathy for what you're saying. And I also like to keep reminding myself that the real death is dying while we're in the body. Because if we can die while we're in the body and just keep going, we're going to have a lot better life, you know, the next time.
How would you do that?
Well, I think we're all doing it, you know, just by giving up. I mean, like things like backbiting, you know, and some level of self-control. Those are all ways that our ego dies, because we're not feeding our ego, you know, by doing those things like lust, greed, anger, backbiting, you know, on and on and on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know, like if I'm dying to my low desires, my low impulses. Is that what
Yeah, and that's the real death. The body just, I mean, the body is just a shadow. I guess it's the reflection actually of our mental bodies, but I can't say that for sure. But I think Baba talks about that.
Yeah.
Why don't I, go ahead.
I just don't like living through this pandemic.
Well, you know, I can say that there's a lot of things I don't enjoy about this life, but with Baba, it all has meaning, because if I keep remembering him, you know, he said, if God realization was easy, it wouldn't be worth it. And we're all moving towards that. So you just have to know that. That's what I say. What do you think, Cliff? But you have to unmute. You have to unmute yourself.
You know, I've already been realized.
Oh,
What are you doing here then? You don't need this.
yeah.
And I
He's
usually don't talk about it because I don't want you to all feel bad. And
So you're just here to help us, right?
it is so great.
Oh,
But, you know,
yeah.
what I did have is because, you know, sometimes we feel like shit. We feel so bad. And then, like, it's amazing how much better we'll feel an hour or two later, or maybe it's just for a few days. Usually
Yeah.
I don't feel bad. It doesn't keep going on for weeks and weeks. I'm lucky that way. But
Yeah.
but the thing is that Baba tells us that we all have it already. And just with that knowledge, if we can tune in to even just pretending about our own divinity, just experiencing, try to just block out all the confusion and just go deeper in and try and get past that and experience a little bit of bliss and just tune
Yeah.
into I am God thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, Tina, the other thought that comes to me is that that first quote I read, you know, Baba said that mental suffering is the suffering that really counts. And I think you're probably going through mental suffering from the COVID situation. So think of all the sanskaras that you're burning up. You might just,
No, I'm not aware of burning sun scars. You could be right about that.
well, just tell me if you do get God realization, please come back to the circle, inquiry circle, and share with us, because that would be really nice.
Mm.
Okay. Good. So I'm going to read you some quotes from Byron Katie on the body, just to give you another reflection. This is from her book, Question Your Thinking. It's a little book, and I like it because it's broken down into different sections. And so I'm reading from the section on health, sickness, and death, you know. And so she said, every story we tell is about body identification. Without a story, there's no body. And then she goes on to say, bodies don't think, care, or have any problem with themselves. They never beat themselves up or shame themselves. They simply try to keep themselves balanced and healthy. They're entirely efficient, intelligent, kind, and resourceful. Where there's no thought, there's no problem. It's the story we believe prior to doing inquiry that leaves us confused. I tell the story of my body, and because I haven't inquired, I believe that my body is the problem, and that if only this or that changed, I'd be happy. But my suffering can't be my body's fault. And then she goes on to say, your body is not your business. Your business is your thinking. And in the peace of that, you're very clear about what to do. And then the body becomes a lot of fun because you're not invested in whether it lives or dies. It's nothing more than a metaphor for your thinking mirrored back to you. She says, for people who are tired of the pain, nothing could be worse than trying to control what can't be controlled. If you want real control, drop the illusion of control. Let life have you. It does anyway. You're just telling the story about how it doesn't. That story can never be real. You didn't make the weather or the sun or the moon. You have no control over your lungs or your heart or your ability to see or walk. 1 minute you're fine and healthy, and the next minute you're not. When we try to be safe, we live our lives being very, very careful, and we wind up having no lives. I like to say, don't be careful, you could hurt yourself. So I'll just read a few more paragraphs. She says, bodies don't crave, bodies don't want, bodies don't know, bodies don't care. They don't get hungry or thirsty. It's what the mind attaches to. that the body reflects. There are no physical addictions, only mental ones. Body follows mind. It doesn't have a choice. Actually, it's simultaneous, but as long as you're mentally experiencing duality, body follows mind. All the thoughts we attach to are about survival, then health, then comfort, then pleasure. Every thought has to be about I. That's how you survive. And then as soon as you get your house, your car, your piece of turf, your thoughts turn to the story of how you need to be healthy and comfortable. You put stuff in the shopping cart, in the house, and as soon as you're comfortable, your thoughts turn to pleasure. This is full-scale body identification. There's no thought that isn't about the body. So you go to pleasure when you have your little ducks in order. And all pleasure is pain because you're worried about losing it and trying to make it last or to get more of it. You never really experience it. You're always in the past or future. So I just read those so you could get a little flavor of who Byron Katie is. And I spent a lot of time with her when I was training and staffing her 9-day schools. And I definitely experienced her as someone who's totally non-attached. So she was a good experience for me. So what I decided to do is we're going to do the work on our bodies. And so, you know, we're just going to do the first statement today. You know, I have to do a generic one, and then you can find your specific situation. So what I've said is I'm unhappy with my body because my body isn't healthy enough. Now, can everybody buy into that belief to inquire into? My body isn't healthy enough. I just need to make sure we're all on board together, because that's what. Thank you. I figured everybody's got something. I mean, Baba, you know, he said because he comes down to gross consciousness, his body suffers. I mean, he was suffering in his gross body a lot. So we are in good company.
Even if
Hi,
we're
Jackie.
gay, we still have to, you know, we're all going to die, and you know, we age and we have health issues. Oh, everybody.
Yeah.
Well, can we do specific things like you know, not liking extra weight or things like that?
Yes, and the way you would do that is when I say it isn't healthy enough, you're going to say to yourself, my body weighs too much.
Okay.
And then all the sub questions and what I ask, you'll be specifically working on that. And, you know, I have to tell you, Katie famously did the work with Oprah Winfrey once on her program. And it was, I don't know if you ever saw it, but it was adorable because it was about that Oprah said she weighed too much. And Katie was done. She goes, she was like, is that true? And how could that possibly be true? And then she asked the audience, you know, this huge audience. So raise your hand if you love Oprah less because her body weighs this certain amount. And of course, everybody loved her no matter what. And it was such a beautiful thing because, you know, I realize it. I mean, I worry about getting old and all the wrinkles I'm getting. And, you know, it's like big deal. If people love me, they love me. It just doesn't matter. But it really helps to do inquiry on the body to just strip away all of these beliefs we have about our body not being exactly perfect for us. Because in reality, we have exactly the body we need. You know? And so it's just a beautiful thing to consider. Yeah. All right. So everybody heard what I said to Jackie. So if you have a very specific thing, you can just do the work on that and answer out of that. And otherwise, my body isn't healthy enough. I mean, I can give you a million reasons why my body isn't healthy enough. I can, you know, that interpreter in the left brain just wants to prove its story. And man, I've got so much proof. So, and I noticed that, you know, life is good. And there's something really sweet about getting older.
Oh yeah, what?
Okay, so, so one thing is I don't have to work all the time, you know? I feel like, now that I'm in my 70s,
Yeah,
I don't have to prove anything. I can spend the morning in my garden. I can spend the morning with Baba. I can enjoy, I've always enjoyed cooking, and believe me, I still have an inner critic that pushes me like work, work, work. But I feel like I have more permission to just be still and to take it slowly.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be happy.
And
Enjoy.
yeah. And I notice that my husband loves me no matter how I look or whatever. It's like love is so beyond the body, and I remember a while
Some
back,
people.
my son said to me, he said something about as I aged, he said, you just become more beautiful because how did he put it? I wish I could remember his words, but they really touched my heart. He just said it was like there was more transparency with aging. And it really, I loved that. And I feel the truth of it. There's more transparency, and the older we get, especially for people on a spiritual path, it's like we know what's important. God is important. And all this other stuff isn't important, but it's harder, I think, when we're young and we're working and we're being householders, and we're trying to make a living and we're doing all these things and we're so busy. And then when we get older, there's just some kind of a sweetness in slowing down and just thinking about God and Baba all the time. So that's my promotion for aging. Okay.
But some people do love others because of the way they look.
Well, I wouldn't call that love.
Okay.
That's something else, but that's not love. And I thought that that came really clear when Katie asked the huge audience, who loves Oprah less because of her weight? And like nobody loved her less.
Well,
If
they're
you
not going to
love
say.
someone, you just love them. What?
They probably wouldn't say because they wouldn't.
No, I had a grandmother who was very fat. And she had many grandchildren because my father was one of 8 children and they all had like 5 kids. And so we had just tons of cousins. And I remember we called her Ganner. And I can remember saying, I love my Ganner's fat, because somebody said something about her being fat. And I just remember just clinging to her and saying, I love my Ganner's fat. And her grandchildren just adored her. She had such a beautiful heart and such a
for you to be overweight.
Pardon?
It's not that healthy. It's not that healthy to be overweight.
No, but do you remember the story of one of Shirdi Sai Baba's disciples? He was corpulent, and whenever the people came to see Sai Baba, he would take money, from all the people who were coming to see him. And then he would go get food for this really corpulent disciple. And I think it might be in Lord Maher, but he talked about how this particular soul was just like consuming everyone's karma by eating like that. So we just don't know. I mean, how can we know? We can never judge anything. Anyway, okay. Shall we begin? Got to take a few gentle breaths and just relax. Okay. So my body isn't healthy enough. Is it true? And just unmute yourselves and give your yes and no whenever you're ready. My body isn't healthy enough. Is it true?
Yes. It's not black and white. It's a little.
Well,
not
then you
healthy.
say no. If we can't, I mean, you can say yes or no, but if you could say yes, and then on question 2, can you absolutely know that it's true that your body isn't healthy enough? That's the one where if it's not black and white, that's the one where you could say, no, I can't absolutely know. So I'm going to just ask the question for everyone who's still pondering. Can you absolutely know that it's true that your body isn't healthy enough?
No.
No.
Sure.
No.
Okay. So how do you react? What happens when you're believing the thought that your body isn't healthy enough? What emotions do you feel?
Fear.
Yeah. Anybody else notice what emotions you feel?
Rejection.
I feel discouraged,
Annoyed
annoyed. Okay.
at myself.
For not finding the perfect remedies for your body?
For not having self-control over snacking.
Oh, okay. Okay. You know, that's why I laugh at myself, because I do so many healthy things, but I know I offset everything because I like to have my snacks. So there it is, the human condition.
Crackers.
Oh, I'm with you. I am in the cracker club.
Like crackers, yeah.
Yeah. Crunchy, salty things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And you know, that reminds me, I remember reading a story about Goher. I think it was in Growing Up with God. And, you know, Sheila Kulturi is telling all these stories about the women Mandali. And some people were very upset. How could she write those stories? But I loved it because I could so identify with them. And this particular story was where Goher would put nuts in her pocket and go around eating them. You know, and I just was like, yeah, you go, girl.
Sheila's book is one of my favorite books I ever read. Like, it's so good, you know.
Which one?
You know,
Growing Up with God?
yeah, one
Yeah.
of my absolute favorite books. It's just fun. It's a fun book. She's fun, you know.
I
It's just,
know. I loved it. I actually got to work on that book. I did proofreading for it, and
you did, wow.
it was just like such a joy.
She's a talker, and she's kind of,
Very articulate.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, out of the mouths of babes, I mean, it was just so sweet to have that child's viewpoint. And then I also really loved her relationship with Duncan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 So, yeah, so that was pretty wonderful.
Yeah.
So,
What was her relationship with Duncan?
well, they had a friendship. They were really good friends, and she spent a lot of time with him. And, you know, from what I understand, he was pretty reclusive. Is that right, Cliff?
Yeah, he wasn't very close with anybody, really.
I mean, he was almost musk like himself.
Yeah.
And, you know, he died very soon after Baba, and it was just because, you know, he loved him so completely. That's my story about him.
Yeah.
And yet he had this beautiful friendship with Sheila Kulturi, and I don't know, it was just such a lovely thing. So we're going to go back to the emotions. So who would be willing to, I want everyone, whether you found annoyance or discouragement or I forget what the other adjectives were. What was yours, Tina?
Fear.
Fear. So someone please volunteer to, after you locate the emotion in your body, please volunteer to, we're all going to go into the emotion that we're feeling for 60 to 90 seconds and just notice what happens. And then whoever would like to share, I would love to hear what you experienced as you do that. And remember, we always go into that sensation in our physical body as the objective observer. We are the witness of this. So not only are we not our thoughts, we're not our emotions, we're not our sensations, and we're not our body. So this is something we're going to get more clear on as we spend the next, few weeks on the body. So let's just take a few gentle breaths and go in to find where, like I'm going to find my discouragement. Where is it in my body? And then just be with your emotion for that amount of time and just witness it. So would anyone like to share what you notice? I can share the discouragement that I felt. It was in my heart area. And when I really witnessed it, I actually noticed very shallow breathing and almost what I would describe as inflammation in my heart area. And then I just noticed a letting go, like I felt I had a deep sigh that came out. And then I noticed that my neck and shoulders relaxed. And then I recognized the thought that I feel guilty for my unhealthy, whatever's not healthy in me. And I also recognized at the same moment that it's okay and it's not my fault. And then I felt this like ease. I felt ease in my heart area. And it's a lighter feeling. I still have some heaviness because I'm going through some kind of a health thing right now, but I definitely felt a release. Could anybody else share what they noticed?
I'm not sure I completely followed the exercise. What was the thing we were supposed to be meditating on?
So what was the emotion that you had identified when you're believing the thought that you weigh too much?
Well, for myself, I was aware of the rejection of myself in the now moment.
Okay. So then you would go inside and find where you feel that rejection in your body.
Okay.
And then what happens in my experience is that if you do stay with the uncomfortable emotions and sensations, something else arises. There's always love is underneath everything, but it takes courage to fully feel these very difficult emotions and sensations. And we only do it for a short time because it's hard work. But if we if we just get in the habit of noticing when things feel heavy and we can just be with it, I've just noticed that then things lighten up. It's like just honoring whatever it is that's coming up for me right now. And I just march on because I know none of this is real, you know. This body isn't real, the mind isn't real, only the soul, you know, the oversoul. I mean, we're all individualized souls, but ultimately we're just one big soul.
Mhm.
So would anybody else like to share anything before we go on to the next sub-question? And, you know, don't put up the sub-questions today, Diantha. I'm just going to,
Okay.
I will just say them because I'm just really enjoying looking at Baba. So you can just keep him there. I think it's a nice image for us to work with today. You know, the body is just like the heaviest level of what we have to deal with. And when I look at this image of Baba, he just takes me in, like almost like there's no end to what it is. And it's a beautiful meditation. So just notice at what age that thought first occurred to you that my body isn't healthy enough. Like immediately I have this memory of when I was 45 and I was doing editorial work and I couldn't read the small print. And that was when I realized I had to get glasses. And I just remember going, no, there's no way, I should never have to wear glasses. So that was the image that just arose for me. Anybody else want to share? At what age the thought first occurred to you, my body isn't healthy enough? Tina?
Yeah, my father sold insurance and he had this book called Risk Appraisal that went through all the various symptoms of these diseases.
Uh-huh.
Like really scary because I started reading about all these horrible diseases that you could get. And
How old were you? How old were you when you did that?
maybe like 8.
Wow. Yeah. And so I love that, you know, I always say, trust the image that arises, because then there's always something there to refer back to. If you need to, you can just give empathy to that little 8-year-old Tina, you know, for that. And I can definitely do that for my 45-year-old self, you know, believing that, you know, that I should have perfect eyesight. Good grief.
And also my father used to walk in the door and he would say, you know, so-and-so dropped today, you know, because he sold insurance. And he's like perfectly healthy and just keeled over dead at the corner of Broad and High.
Which probably wasn't good for his life insurance business, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And he was like, you know, only
Oh gosh.
45 years old, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I
don't
know. But you know, Baba says we die when we finish our sanskaras for this life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's all written, and so you know,
And
yeah.
that is spiel to people to buy life insurance because all these people were dropping like flies. And they should get more life insurance because they could
Oh my
leave
gosh.
unprotected.
Yeah.
My dad sold insurance also, New York Life.
Wow.
Did
Wow.
he like that?
What?
Did he tell you about all these people dropping dead suddenly?
Well, my father's father died when he was 9.
Oh,
So my dad actually really felt a calling that it was a great thing.
yeah.
And he did very well with it to a point, and then he was a manager, and then he really failed trying getting back into sales. And he actually really struggled, and we had a lot of problems as I was
Yeah,
a
my
teenager.
father was the manager also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I bought life insurance, I don't know when. We got it when I was probably in my 50s, and it was so expensive that I just dropped it, and I've never had it since. I just did it for like 1 year. So,
Yeah.
but I can understand why like the head of the household would get it, you know, to make sure the family would be okay. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, the whole life is good to get, but you know, I got rid of all mine at a certain point. I had a bunch
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
This way of telling us, it seemed like every day people were keeling over dead.
Yeah.
Well, especially when your father sells life insurance, you're going to hear about it for sure.
Yeah.
I studied with this great percussionist, a famous guy who his father, when he was growing up, would say, "You see those pretty flowers by the side of the road? They're only just going to die and turn to seed. So they're not so great." Like, I forget exactly how he put it, but basically everything was gloom and doom. Like
Oh,
he grew
Yeah,
up.
my father was definitely a prophet of doom.
Yeah.
but I remember what you said, Cliff, reminded me of a Baba story where you probably know this, that Erich was doing what he did, and Baba was having, you know, everybody was passing by him, and this beautiful young woman came, and of course Baba knew what Erich was thinking.
Yeah.
And then, do you remember, Baba had her stay there, he held her face, he said, "She's so beautiful, isn't she?" And then
Yeah.
he said, "And she's going to grow old and get ugly." And
Get
I
all
mean, I
ugly.
don't know if he said ugly, but
I
it's
know.
like, you know,
It's so true. Yeah.
Baba is so amazing. You know, it's like
Yeah.
he can enjoy the beauty, but it's like, it's just a passing show.
We get so caught up in our looks and our vanity,
Yes,
physical,
yes,
and the attractions and everything. It's
exactly.
distraction.
And that I think is one of the beautiful things of getting older, because that all fades,
Yeah.
and we can
Some
actually,
people try to get facelifts and things like that. And
oh, I know. Yeah, my daughter-in-law's mother was trying to convince me to come down to Mexico where she lives and get a facelift for only $4,000.
Mm.
yes,
I thought, I don't, but you know,
with me.
I think I'd be too scared, you know. I know
Yeah,
people get
well,
really
you know,
messed up.
it's
Yeah.
You could
Anyway,
go wrong.
GoFundMe like on Facebook for
would you fund me, Cliff? Would you
it.
fund me?
Not.
If you
You
fund
look
me, maybe I'll do.
right now.
No,
I guess I don't have that much vanity, to be honest.
you're so
So,
pretty.
oh, you're so
How
sweet.
much does it cost to get hair?
Man,
Oh, I'm kidding.
What?
I
Okay.
just said, how much does it cost to get hair?
Probably too much.
you could ask, you know, Donald Trump. He got that, didn't
Oh,
he?
yeah,
Get
that's true.
But he
I
can
could-
afford it.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
certainly can.
Okay, so now we're back to my body isn't healthy enough.
Right.
I want you to notice, how do you treat your body when you're believing that thought? How do you treat your body when you're believing the thought that it isn't healthy enough? Just ponder that for a minute and then speak up.
When this whole COVID thing started, I like get all these vitamins because I was, and people telling me get these mushrooms, get this, get, and you know, powdered mushrooms, and all these vitamins.
Not psilocybin, right?
No, not that kind of mushrooms, but
I know. I'm just laughing because, I mean, I have tried so many things, and you
most of
know,
them.
I don't think it's bad. It's okay, but it can get a little out of proportion. And you know, I think Baba, he wants us to take care of our bodies so that he can pummel us to death, right? We talked about that last week, I think. But I mean, when I came to Baba, I was 51, and it was like a breath of fresh air because, you know, I'd go to the Pilgrim Center and the pilgrims were smoking, and, you know, I had been such a health fanatic. And it was like coming to Baba just helped me find much more balance and to realize that It's much, much better to have a pure mind and heart than it is to have a healthy body. So who else? How do you treat your body? So Tina stuffs it with vitamins, the latest, greatest vitamin. How do you treat your body when you're
That only lasts a short time because there's so many of them. I
know.
I probably cover it.
You cover
Try
it?
to cover it. Try to hide it.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And
Is that,
yeah.
are you referring to because you're not the weight you want to be?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely.
And I stopped buying clothes.
Yes.
I start wearing kind of the same things.
And of course, your body could care less about the clothes that you put on it. They do this incredible exercise in the 9-day school for the work. And I can't tell you the exercise because it's copyrighted and it's just for people who go there. But the takeaway from it is that our bodies are this incredible servant to us. It's an incredible friend, and it's there for us through thick and thin. And you come out of that just loving your body for its faithful service. And and I notice how I treat my body when I'm believing it's not healthy enough. I mean, I used to fast a lot, and I was extremely, torturing my body. And I can't do that anymore because my body's wearing out. But yeah, anybody else, how you treat your body when you're believing that it's not healthy enough? So now notice how you treat yourself when you're believing the thought that your body isn't healthy enough. How are you treating yourself? And that's just a nice way to ponder, well, who am I? So we know who we really are, but how do we treat that? Like I notice my soul, I ignore it too much when I'm over-identified with my body. I'm ignoring what's really important. Putting too much attention on the body. Anybody else notice, how do you treat yourself, your soul, when you're believing the thought that your body isn't healthy enough?
I mean,
You're muted, Tina.
I either, do something good for my body or I do more of what's bad for it.
Yeah.
I don't know if putting that into words, like, sometimes I don't do what I need to do. I do what I feel like doing, which, like, I have a blood sugar issue, so I'll eat things that are not good for my blood.
Yes.
Whatever. Like I'll eat too many carbs or eat something sweet.
Right. Well, and that reminds me all the work we've done on the unconscious. The unconscious just is going to have its way, isn't it? I mean, we all do things, I think. I mean, I think you're not alone. I think that's what we all do. And I definitely notice, especially at night, that's my time when I just like to indulge a bit. It's like, okay, I'm relaxing. I'll have this, even though I know that I'll pay for it. So how do you treat
I find that I can start to get pretty negative, or just my thinking about myself and about life in general, just kind of downward spirals.
When I was in training to become a certified facilitator of the work, I took a course on food, and we would come to the class every week with something that we really like to eat. And then we would do inquiry, but we would mindfully eat it. And it was actually a beautiful way to be more at peace with some of these impulses that we have. And so I can, you can do that yourself. Just consciously go to the refrigerator or the pantry and take that thing that you believe you shouldn't eat and then just really slowly, consciously enjoy it. I found it to be very beautiful and balancing. So I don't think I need to ask the question, what addictions, obsessions manifest when you believe my body isn't healthy enough? Because that's kind of what we've been talking about. But if anybody has anything else they'd like to share, please feel free to go ahead. When you're believing my body isn't healthy enough, addictions, obsessions.
And in a way, it's kind of a filling some kind of a void, you know. It's like
Yeah.
you're filling a void. You're
Yes.
replacing it with something, and you think it's food, and you think it's going to go away, and it might momentarily go away, but you know it's still there. So you haven't really addressed the core issue of your behavior.
Well,
So or your
yes.
emotion that's causing the behavior.
Yes, and I really I definitely advocate for then knowing, just do it consciously, just love yourself for it, and you just try it, you know, and see. It really made a difference for me. Just enjoy that forbidden snack.
I think everyone might want to mute because there's so much background noise. It's hard to hear you.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot
I
of background.
apologize. I'm at the circle and the boys are playing cards, so I'm trying to stay muted most of the time. It's my
But
deal.
we love to hear from you, so please do unmute when you're talking, because it adds a lot to our circle.
Yeah, I was thinking that about something I read the other day too, about how people who have more, or who are more on the empath kind of continuum, like if you're an empath, where you pick up, you're sensitive, or you pick up other people's feelings and emotions, that sometimes extra weight can be a barrier and be like an important kind of insulate for that. And
Yes.
I like insulation, and so that struck a chord with me as being really interesting as a motivation for keeping that weight.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that I have done research into. And the other thing, though, that's really important for highly empathic people is to learn how to give an honest no, because empaths generally don't have clear enough boundaries to, you know, because they're so empathic and want to be so helpful. So that's the other piece, is to just really work on establishing boundaries and learning how to say no with love. Okay, so what are you unable to do when you're believing the thought that your body isn't healthy enough? What are you unable to do? So what I noticed today was I wasn't feeling very much energy, but I was pushing myself to accomplish many things. And so what I was unable to do was to just stop and give myself a rest. I did finally do that, and it made all the difference. I was actually able to get recharged. But sometimes I'm unable to just stop and be still and allow myself to just feel what I need to feel. Anybody else want to share what you're unable to do when you're believing that your body isn't healthy enough?
I'm unable to think of anything else. It becomes very obsessive kind of thinking, like with the kid. I every day I wake up and I see if I can smell my deodorant, so because they lose their sense of smell, and, and you know, I might take my temperature. You know, I'm just have a lot of fear about it because it's
okay. So you're unable to just be at peace. It sounds like.
It's better now because we don't have many cases here, but.
Yeah. And do you go out?
Yeah, I've been going out some more.
Yeah. So that probably helps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else want to share what you're unable to do when you're believing the thought that your body isn't healthy enough? Okay. So let's go to the last sub-question. What do you fail to see when you're believing the thought that your body isn't healthy enough? What do you fail to see?
The truth. Because I think
And
that, I think what happens is I exaggerate in my own mind whatever is the problem. So
thank you.
instead of being real, actually, and most of the time in my case, it's not as bad as I think it is.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. I was failing to see that I'm just failing to see that I am healthy enough. I do what I have to do, and I don't do all the things I did when I was younger. So that's what I fail to see when I'm believing I'm not healthy enough.
Oh,
I'm a lot healthier than a lot of other people.
Ah, good to notice. That reminds me of when Baba says, that we have to know, I can't remember his exact words, but I've thought about it a lot, that we have to remember that other people are suffering more than we are.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a really good thing to notice. Anybody else? What do you fail to see when you're believing the thought, my body isn't healthy enough?
oh, maybe that the pain is burning sanskaras.
Oh, yeah. Great. Beautiful.
Could
That's
be.
good.
Yeah.
Didn't he say that physical suffering sometimes replaces mental suffering, or that it's,
Well,
it's in
he
places?
said, okay, let me just go back and find that because it's pretty profound. He says mental suffering is more acute than physical suffering, but he says physical suffering sometimes comes as a blessing because it serves the purpose of easing mental suffering by weaning away one's attention from mental suffering. The true suffering that counts is mental, which is rooted in the frustration of desires.
So I'm perfectly happy to have my attention taken away from mental suffering.
Yes, yes.
So that's what I fail to see when I'm believing.
Yes, yes, that's beautiful. Thank you. Mental suffering is just pure torture, I have to say.
I don't like it either.
Okay, so you're ready for question 4. Who would you be without the thought that my body isn't healthy enough? Who are you without that thought?
Well, I think I would be more happy-go-lucky, more carefree, not so hyper-vigilant. And of course, this COVID thing is my worst nightmare.
Yeah, so you are burning sanskaras, my dear. Really, I mean, there's a gift in everything, and Baba is so in charge of everything that's going on. I noticed without the thought that my body isn't healthy enough that I'm able to just feel grateful for all the wonderful things that are in my life, whether my body is wearing out or not. It just doesn't matter. I just had this image of my garden. I have a little secret garden, and I love being in it so much. And I think when I was younger, I wouldn't slow down that much, to just be enjoying the simplicity of my garden, my little garden. Who else? Who are you without the thought that your body isn't healthy enough? Jackie, I'm thinking of you because I know your lifestyle is enjoying nature and your land. And, I remember you even went swimming. And so I'm wondering if you notice without the thought, all of these beautiful things that you experience maybe come up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm fortunate. I feel very healthy. And I
Yeah,
love swimming. I love walking. I love nature.
yeah,
And I'm just thinking of the ways that I discount myself with the weight, you know, in
yeah,
terms of how I think I come across to others. And
yeah,
but
yeah. And I'm sure that that YouTube video with Katie and Oprah is still
mhm.
online somewhere, because it is beautiful. You really come to see that people, we love each other for our souls, not for the way we look. And, you know, it's such a kind way to live.
Mhm.
So let's move on to the turnarounds. So Diantha, if you can post the turnarounds. The way we do the turnarounds with the body is we change it to my thinking. Okay, so if we're saying my body isn't healthy enough, then it becomes my thinking isn't healthy enough. And we can specifically say my thinking about my body isn't healthy enough. But whichever way you like to do it, it can just be my thinking isn't healthy enough. But notice how you're thinking about your body isn't healthy enough. And then let's look for those genuine examples, those authentic examples where this turnaround could be truer than the original statement. My thinking about my body isn't healthy enough. Just ponder that, and then just please share your examples where your thinking could just get a little upgrade. What I'm noticing right now is I'm just feeling my heart loving my body because it's such a faithful friend, servant. I really am having that experience right now as to how it's taken me through life and given me so many opportunities. And so I'm just like loving my body for the service that it's given. And it's just making me feel more at peace about my body. So my thinking about my body isn't healthy enough when I'm trying to whip it into shape, when I'm believing it should be other than what it is, when I'm not being able to just enjoy the life that I have right now with this aging body. Who else? Share an example.
I think it helped me to be in India when I was really like a lot younger, like as a, you know, like late teenager or something like that, like to see people who had leprosy or who were missing limbs and just kind of crawling around in the streets, but you know, but
Yes.
no wheelchair, not even a, you know, just living their lives and having, you know, their community around them. And it just seemed like that was just normal, you know.
Yeah.
And then so anyway, just, and how much more fortunate I am to never have to probably experience that in this lifetime. Like, at least, I don't know, just
Thank you
that.
so much for sharing that insight. Yeah, it's like the body's just not the problem, you know? Katie tells a story where she was walking out in the desert with a friend, and he had a heart attack, I think, when they were walking. It's in one of the books, but anyway. And he's like, I'm dying. And she's like, just totally at peace, you know? I think she's holding his hand, whatever. She's like, life, death, what's the difference? And he just went through all of the story that he had, and he didn't die. But either way, you know, it's like it's reality, and so it's just okay. You know, it reminds me of that whole Zen thing. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, and it's the same thing when we think about our body. You know, we can die of all kinds of things, and we can die with a lot of stress and worry, or we can just be peaceful with it. Bye bye body. How soon am I getting another one? You know, my prayer is that I learned something in this life so that I can, do better. Just, and Baba says we keep going forward, so I'm not too worried about it.
Well, my prayer is if I come back and I'm in show business, I want to come back as a gay man, because I feel like they have all the advantages.
Wow, that's amazing.
But Tina, you were a gay guy last lifetime.
I'll probably end up in a ditch in Calcutta.
Do they get all the advantages? Do you know why? But why?
Because theater is run by gay men.
Well, there you go.
But what if you're like a lawyer in your next life? Then you want a gay guy to be a better lawyer or something?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
What if you are a lawyer in your next life?
Yeah. What about, I don't want to be a gay lawyer. I don't think it's like popular.
You want to be a gay actor, right?
If I'm an actor, I want to be a gay man because they're the majority. And they fight against everybody else.
Especially on Broadway, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. In the business, yeah. Definitely.
Not necessarily when we come back, circumstances are going to be different.
That's for sure.
I said I could end up in a ditch in Calcutta cooking over a smudge pot.
So you could just ask to be a really acknowledged actor in your next life. That way, no matter who's getting the jobs, you'll be covered. Yeah. However, my warning to you is I don't think we have a say in it. And I'm going to tell you a quick story. I was sitting in the Samadhi.
Like an accountant in the next life, I think. Somebody like very opposite. Because
I was sitting in the Samadhi having this one-way conversation with Baba, telling him, thank you so much for my wonderful family, my happy marriage, my children. And I'm done now. Thank you. I needed that experience. And now I'm done. And I really just want to be with you next time. And I was really like being very forthright about this. And right as I'm having this deep conversation with Baba about it, this little petite Indian woman walks into the Samadhi, drops her baby in my lap, because I'm sitting on the edge, so that she can go bow down. And I mean, I literally laughed because it was like Baba was just showing me, honey, what you want isn't what you get. You get what your sanskars are going to give you. Right. So I just surrendered it. It's like, okay.
When I said I was a gay man, I was kind of joking, but. No.
I know. And I wasn't joking when I wanted to be done. But, I've really enjoyed raising a family, but I just, I had such a longing to just be with him, like to be with him like a mandali. Mm-hmm. And generally you don't have a family if you do that. So, but it's like, I wouldn't be ready. Obviously, I probably have to have more children. So that's okay. I love having children.
They'll get plopped in.
Not my business. It's not my business. It's like it's not in my hands, and he made that really clear.
While we're on the subject, as I'm reading all the Baba books, I'm trying to read all the Baba books I have. So now I'm reading Meher, Mera Meher. And, it's just so, the more I read about the close mandali, what the life is daily, to think that I could ever be able to really strip down that much.
I know.
Just incredible. And how much we love Baba. Like, we intensely love Baba so much, but really we have this karma and that we're just used to everything a certain way.
Yeah.
It's
so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're moving closer.
Yeah.
We're moving closer, but I don't have any illusions about getting to have that.
When we bring it to Baba, whatever it is, like let's say we're on the body, you bring it to Baba, And that whole thing about one step to him, 10, he takes 10 steps to you,
Mm,
really does. And when you're doing everything through him, it's like a channel of him
yes.
guiding you. And you're still going to go through the ups and the downs, but it's good to go right to
Yes.
him about it all, I find.
Yes. So let's do the last turnaround now. The turnaround to the opposite. There's
Yeah,
only two turnarounds because this is a simple sentence.
yeah.
So my body is healthy enough. And I would love everyone who's willing to share examples where my body is healthy enough. And I've already shared some, you know.
Well, I didn't get the flu shot for 2 years in a row because it makes me feel sick, and I didn't get the flu.
Great. Yeah, your body's healthy enough. Yeah.
I guess the question is healthy enough for what?
It's just healthy enough.
Well, if it's
Healthy
for,
enough.
I mean, it's healthy enough for, loving God or
Yeah.
To be happy and to not.
That's a beautiful example. My body is healthy enough that my soul can love God. You know, even,
the most important thing.
maybe there's intense pain. Sometimes even the intense pain makes me feel closer to God, you know?
Yeah.
So my body is healthy enough.
And I can say my body is thin enough for enjoying
Yes.
exercise, walks,
Yeah.
swimming.
I
Nature's-
know. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome. My body's healthy enough to still enjoy food.
Mhm.
You could get really sick and not even like food. Anybody else have an example to share?
To do all the work that Baba gives me to do, mental,
Mm.
physical health, so I can do service. I can do what I
Beautiful.
need to do.
Yes. Thank you. Like, I'm just interested, what kind of service do you do? I'm just wondering.
Oh, lots.
Yes.
Well, today I was at the circle getting rid of moldy books.
Wow.
And now I'm working on a spreadsheet of for a Meher Baba lover, old timer who met Baba. A big project I'm doing for him. So,
That's
What about your
beautiful.
translations?
well, yeah, they are kind of sitting waiting for me, saying, "Hello, we are waiting," and all these other things get in the way. But I'm hoping to structure my week so that I can spend a day on each project and maybe have one day off.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Plus
Thank you
do
for
all the
sharing that.
zooming that we do a lot of zooming and hosting and
Yeah.
starting and collecting people or enticing people to do programs on Zoom. So of course Angela does a whole lot of it, and
Yeah.
she hooks me in once in a while. I relent.
Oh, that's
But
lovely.
we've got a great team. I mean, to me, the joy of life is in service.
Yes. And, Baba keeps stressing that. Real happiness lies in making others happy. And when I'm suffering too much, I just have to stop and realize, oh, I'm too self-absorbed. I better just go do something for someone.
Self-thought is the way to suffer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Suffering.
mean, that statement, real happiness lies in making others happy. That's like something that's a seed that planted inside of me. And I feel that I learn more about it, as the years go by.
Yeah.
And it's like everything Baba says, it's ever growing, it's ever blossoming, and it's such an amazing thing, and it's so counter to the whole Maya thing, and I think one of the gifts of being able to come together as Baba lovers is to really encourage and support each other in this what we're doing is remembering him more and more and living for him, because sometimes it feels like an uphill climb.
Yeah. I hear you.
I read somewhere that, you know, there's like two types of people. It's very generalized, but it's, can you guys hear me? I had an
Yes.
interruption. Service to self and service to others. And people who generally are oriented towards service to others are happier. They
Yes.
tend to spend less time you know, they don't have enough time to even think about themselves. So,
Yes.
you know, and Baba said this is a karma yoga, or,
Yes.
you know, labor phase that we have to do. We just have to just do the work. And he did the rest of it. He did
Yeah.
you know, for his lovers. He just left us with the work phase.
Would you correlate that with winding and unwinding sanskars?
Well, if you don't get yourself tangled up with personalities as you're serving him.
Yes. Yes, that's the key, isn't it? The golden key. Yeah, just for love. You just do it for love.
Yes, but
then,
I feel like every time I'm doing some kind of Baba work, he's working on me. You know,
yes.
It's my opportunity to be worked on by him. So I welcome it. Whatever lesson he has, he brings it to my face, and I'm, you know, able to see it and be with it, and gradually find the wisdom to not repeat my mistakes.
Thank you for sharing that. I feel like that's such a valuable insight, and that is also my experience. And sometimes I'm like, whoa, I got more than I bargained for, you know?
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share before I read you some closing quotes from Lord Meher? There's comfort in these closing quotes. It's always nice to end with something that's very comforting. So this one is from page 2077, is during the Blue Bus tours. And Baba said, "What is the gross world after all but the medium of realizing spirituality? For example, the body is purely material, physical, and gross, but it is the medium for the soul to know itself, provided it is dealt with and handled rightly. Otherwise, it becomes a hindrance to spiritual progress." And then he goes on to say, similarly, scientific principles and truths, if used rightly, help in the spiritual progress of the universe. But if improper use is made of them, they are bound to be a source of hindrance in the spiritual path. So what Baba says here about the soul, the gross body is a medium for the soul to know itself. And that's really, I think, the beautiful conversation we've been having in this inquiry is our bodies are a vehicle and we need them in order to come closer. And then this last quote is from page 4659, and it's at Guru Prasad. And he's talking about, well, I'll just start it. He says, "What is the picture of life in general? At first you are a child absorbed in games. Then you grow young and pretty, become lost in youthful reveries, and in course get married. You have children. As you grow old, the worries pile up and get multiplied. Old age, with all its inevitable weaknesses, draws nearer each day, when finally, with an unsatisfied feeling, you have to leave the gross body. Can you call this a life worth living? It is not much different from the life of an elephant. I know your innumerable incarnations, wherein the self-same story is repeated over and over again. Remember, this is all a dream, but a significant dream. Its purpose is to make you aware of the nothingness of the dream itself. But you are so overpowered by ignorance and the self-sown illusory worries that you do not wake up to the situation and do not firmly resolve to lead the life of a real man. In the couplets, Hafez gives an indication of life perennial. This is the life one should aim at. It is for this life that you have a human form. And unless you decide to live life perennial now and make sincere efforts to do so, all previous human forms, so to speak, are likened to those of animals. So only the life of love for God, leading to life perennial, is worth living. One who loves God has only one longing, one worry, and that is to become one with God. This is the real life which leads the lover to the everlasting life. So hooray for our servant bodies that support us in
Wow.
learning to love God more and more. And thank you, everyone, for
Thank you.
coming together and sharing this inquiry.
Wow, that was
Thank you.
awesome.
Jai
I have
Baba.
to go on another call, so I'm going to leave now, but thank you.
Oh, it's always good to see you, Tina. And we're going to continue with the body because it's just a nice correction, because we do tend to get caught up in the body,
Right.
all of its
Okay,
needs.
see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye,
And
dear.
I wanted to share with you, I ordered the book and started reading it, Catching the Thread.
Oh, yes.
Such a beautiful book. I was kind of in a funk, and it really took me out of my funk.
Oh, I'm so
It's
glad.
such a beautiful, gentle. I've read his books before, years
Okay,
ago.
yeah. Oh,
many
really?
years ago. Yeah, but not this
Well,
one.
when I was in Myrtle Beach in February, Joe DiSabatino turned me on to Llewellyn Von Lee. And so I think I borrowed that book from him, and I just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And so when I got home, I bought more of his books. But don't you